Hello guys, today I'm gonna do a video talking about something a lot of people are commenting about the video about turning off PBO, so Precision Boost Overdrive, with AMD processors. I'm gonna talk about the differences and what is the major differences while playing games and also rendering videos, if it really affects your FPS or just speed in general. Keep in mind, Precision Boost is really not a overclocking feature in that it doesn't really overclock your CPU. It just unlocks the barrier of power limits, basically. So it enables each cores to get a higher power load, and that by the same fact, if you're overclocking a lot, the PBO will allow you to exceed the barrier that are set by the manufacturer, basically. I didn't do a whole lot of testing because I just wanted it to be realistic. Like, for me, for what I'm doing personally and what most people would do, I just render videos with Sony Vegas Pro. Nothing really complicated. I render in 2560 by 1440p, and I upscale it for 4K for YouTube. And also, I'm doing that and also playing games. So those are like basic things. And I chose like an older game and some two recent games ish. I think it was just set like a base map for what you would expect from turning it off or on. While I turn PBO on, I also turn everything that makes the motherboard and CPU work together to boost my clocks also. And the maximum clock I saw with PBO on was 4.8 gigahertz. Just keep that in mind. And when I turn PBO off, I'm using 4.4 gigahertz, which is really conservative. Also, another little thing to keep in mind, I'm using a Noctua an HD 15 Black Edition for my cooling, so anyway, I'll be fine with cooling. It's not really the point. Like, the more heat you put into a chip, the lifespan gets shorter. There's no like debating on that. Like, it's just a fact. Even though the chip is made to run hotter, running it at 90 degrees or 80 degrees often is not good. So if people get a stock cooler or something lower tier than what I have, which is really common, I would say, because this is a pretty expensive cooler that I got. That means you're gonna be looking at those temps. I think it's necessary because from what you're gonna see in this video, the difference with PBO on and off. Just to resume it really quick, it's not worth the additional heat for sure. Maximum temperatures I saw with PBO on was around 83 degrees Celsius, 80 with the NHD 15. So that's a really beefy cooler, like pretty much one of the best air coolers you could get. And with PBO off, the max I saw was 68, and to be honest, it's pretty much the maximum I've ever saw. So also feel free to like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like that. If you're interested in maybe seeing another topic related to computer or anything game related, just let me know in the comments. With the first game was Tomb Raider Shadow, and this one with PBO off had in ultra preset an average of 104 FPS and 84 for a minimum. The reason why I'm looking at the minimum is to really tell you the minimum FPS you got and how much it dropped, which makes the experience of gaming a bit less enjoyable. That was for ultra preset, and for low preset with PBO off was 132 FPS and 129 for minimum. So those are good numbers. If you put PBO on, the difference is like 1 FPS down for ultra, and for low it's actually a bit better. So I'm guessing, or what I'm guessing is that the CPU kicks in, and the CPU may be a single core, because this AMD Ryzen has specific workloads for each core. So if you have a game that uses like one core or just a few of them, it will exceed in that aspect if you turn PBO on. Now for Marvel's Guardian of the Galaxy, PBO off. Always start with PBO off. The average with low preset was 120 FPS and minimum was 71. Ultra preset was 114 and minimum was 16. So minimum was 16 is really bad actually, because if it happens a lot, it's going to be annoying. It might be due to drivers like optimization and stuff. Now with PBO on, we see the same tendency basically. 1 or 2 FPS difference up. For ultra, same thing I would say, 1 or 2. So it's really not a big deal. You already have like 110 FPS, so having 1 or 2 more, it doesn't change anything, especially since the minimum FPS is still the same. Now with Forza 5 Horizon, PBO off low preset was 182 and 160 for minimum. Ultra was 84 FPS and minimum 73, which are good numbers. It's a recent game and runs really well with this combination. PBO on, with low presets was 183 FPS and 160, so within margin of error, I would say, because it's 1 FPS on average. Might be worth something with like, and ultra preset was 84 and 74, so basically the same thing. So now for Sony Vegas Pro, rendering a video of around 10 minutes. I used the same video 2 times to render, like I was saying, in 2560 by 1440p, and I upscaled it for 4K for YouTube. And also that's kind of important for me, because if it takes less time, I would go that way, because it just allows me to like render another video right back or just do something else in my life. So with PBO off, I got 12.24 minutes, so 12 minutes and 24 seconds. Average speed was 50.75 FPS. You can see the actual screenshot of it right now. Max temperatures I saw with the PBO off was 4.4 gigahertz, and max temp was 56. And also for the PBO on, I had 12.31, so 7 seconds more. So it basically performs a bit less average speed for the FPS also, and temps were higher by 10 degrees, so it's not really a big deal because it's 64 or 65 degrees. 65 degrees isn't really a big deal. The core clock was higher, it was 4.8 with PBO on, so technically it's higher, it's supposed to perform more. The thing is that with PBO on, it just switches the core clock constantly, like up and down. That's why I prefer it off. I think it's more consistent. You might be losing some FPS here and there, but it's always at that clock. There's no like going in between, and like sometimes I feel like the transition between those clock switching is noticeable when you're used to using a computer. I think for me personally. Now for Cinebench R23, PBO on with multi-core gave me 14,170 points. Max temp I saw was 82, 83 degrees, around there, which is close to the throttle limit, which is 90 degrees. And this is like a top tier air cooler, so that's bad, because PBO just puts a lot of voltage for no reason. You can achieve 4.7 gigahertz or 4.8 constantly with less voltage. The reason why it puts more voltage is because, like I was saying, PBO is just to break that barrier of power limit that the CPU has. That's why the core clock goes up and temperatures goes up. But it's only good if you're like really pushing the CPU overclocking wise, which almost no one does anyway. And it's not something you would do if you were playing games and just casually using a computer. That's why I think it's pretty dumb that it's on whenever someone buys a pre-built computer, because people just freak out and see the high temperatures. And PBO on with single core was 1489 points. That's a point I was thinking I would do better, like single core, and it did. PBO on with single core does better because it really, like, when you put that on PBO and everything that's making the CPU overclock by itself, it just works better for single thread application. So single core, like I was saying earlier, will work better with PBO on. But honestly, these single cores are really powerful, and it's not really. I just don't see with the few numbers I got. I don't see the real point of it unless you're using a specific software that uses the single clock a lot. Single core. For PBO off, multiple cores, 14,507 points, so 14,507 points. Max temp I saw was 68, which is really like a breeze, but you have to consider I got a really good air cooler. So for someone who has like an average tier, a Noctua, a 12, a U12 or something like that would film better in my case. You're probably gonna see like 78, 80 maybe, but that's using Cinebench, which is like 100% usage for a couple of minutes, so it's not really a big deal. Max temp was 68, like I said. The single core points was 1429, so a bit less, but honestly I'll take the straight any day of the week. So I'm gonna do like a quick conclusion. Just starting it off, if you buy any type of computer which has AMD Ryzen or PBO that's possible to be activated, just check and see what you can do by disactivating. I think it's really worth it. And also when you do that, when I'm on my desktop right now, like I can just open the browser or a tab, and my temps will go up maybe 1 or 2 degrees. But if you're using PBO, it would just like give a shit ton of voltage just because you open like a Google tab or like a YouTube video. So, and it's just gonna constantly spike. I think it's too sensitive, that system. Then again, I've heard people tweaking it a bit and playing with it. I guess that's something some of you could investigate. I'm not willing to. I don't think it's worth at all, because it's just a matter of boosting, and there's nothing like insanely different. It's just an like automatic voltage and core clock going up. With that, with 4.5 gigahertz with PBO off, so basically I'm using 100 megahertz more than PBO off I was using before. I got 15,000 points, just like that. Conclude this time, I would say turn it off, experiment with it, but just be aware that if it's on, if you're not looking at your temperatures, you might be shortening the lifespan of your processor, which AMD don't give a shit about because you're just gonna buy another one. So that's the gist of it, I guess. And also, just a side note, I just put like an additional 100 megahertz, so 4.5 gigahertz instead of 4.4 for what I was using for testing in with PBO off. So 100 megahertz more gave me in Cinebench another 500 points. So I broke the 15,000 barrier just doing that. 4.5 gigahertz, and it's running at like 1.25 volts. So it's really it's not even forcing. It's just chilling there, to be honest. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Keep in mind, everyone has their own opinion on this subject. I think PBO is a great feature. It's nice to have it instead of not, but I just prefer it off. For me, the experience was better that way. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and see you on another video.